wish I didn't suck so much ass. Maybe I could be cool like Will.
Okay, wipe out the Max. Why not?
I believe why not is the reason we asked you to stay. So why not,
Think. If Scharnhorst wipes out the Max, come next spring, what do you think the Cutters will eat? Our cattle, that's what.
Ridiculous. We'll post guards.
Do you think guards can stop octopus weeds from choking our fields? Without any Max to devour those weeds, our crops will die, and the whole city will starve.
So we'll poison the octopus weeds.
And pollute our food, ourselves, and our children? The Macchinato Vitae allows no shortcuts. There's a reason for life on every level of the food chain.
In the old days, people drove their cattle to market riding horses.
I heard about them cow punchers. In fact, I got some old cow puncher gear right here. They use these to punch the cows.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That was a great introduction to this game, man. Holy shit. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is fantastic.
I love the property.
The property is amazing. Yeah.
I'm inspired to read the comics.
Tales from the what's it called exactly? Tales from the
Xenozoic Tales.
Xenozoic Tales, yeah. Man, how fun. The premise of the beat 'em up game is significantly better than the execution of the beat 'em up game, which is too bad coming off of a game like Batman Returns where the execution is so much better than the premise.
I think this suffered from us playing it after that Batman game because it is a pretty decent beat 'em up game by standards.
I don't think it's as good as X-Men. I don't think it's as good as any of the Turtles games. I don't think it's as good as...
Yeah, but the Turtles games are some of the best beat 'em ups that they have to offer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This was like B tier, and we've been playing A tier.
Right, that's my
I didn't
point.
expect Batman to be S tier. I didn't expect Batman to be S tier, right? But like Batman is as good as Maximum Carnage in my opinion.
I thought it was fun though.
So
There's
Cadillacs and Dinosaurs mostly.
There's just not a lot of depth to it.
So there's the usual like fast guy, strong guy, big guy, with different movesets sort of thing. But they've also got a character who's just better at all of the tools in the game, which means all the firearms too. And that's like the lady archaeologist character, which I thought was cool. That was a cool skill set to give her. The whole show suffers from 90s tropism of like racial problems and like this is the girl character sort of stuff, but it seemed like it was trope plus interesting more than just like the usual tropes you see in a video game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they did have her at the end. She does like fall down as they're running away and have to be saved.
God damn it! Of course.
Who was your favorite character to play?
Definitely the orange lug guy.
I liked Mustafa.
I didn't play him yet.
His thing is his kick is really far. It's the move where you have to hit the attack at the apex of your jump when you go straight up.
What did you think of the mechanic where green dinosaur means it's peaceful and doesn't want to fight you, and red dinosaur means that it's been aggravated by the bad guys?
You have to protect them too because they'll punch them and get them riled up.
Right, yeah. I thought that was such a cool way to incorporate the theme of the show, really.
Right.
The theme of the show is that like dinosaurs aren't monsters, like animals and life are meant to be respected, right?
Exactly. They may be dangerous, but you're better off not messing with them.
Absolutely, they're dangerous, but that's why you don't mess with them, right?
Visually, too, this was the opposite of Batman, which was drab and muted, and this is bright and vibrant.
It sure was. Although I'm not sure if it was derivative of Alien versus Predator or if it was just because I think it's the same studio. If it's just that Alien versus Predator's lab scenes were better, but I thought the labs were not drab exactly, but they were just the same lab I've seen in every '90s beat 'em up, you know?
Yeah, surprisingly kind of dark with the body horror.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, Shinobi 3 is the game that did the best job with that, in my opinion. And you know, I think a lot of people think that, but I thought that the amalgamation bosses were cool. I think they're done better in Alien versus Predator from my childhood imagination or recollection, my childhood recollection. I don't know. So, what did you think of the amalgamation bosses? So, I'm talking about like the one that jumps around to different guys and transforms them. Dr.
Annoying.
Fezziwig. Annoying. Yeah.
I didn't like that one.
It felt quarter hungry. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
oh,
That's
so
the one
many.
that you
Here's,
cannot beat on a single life. I had trouble with
not like
Sliceosaurus as well.
I thought the most entertaining boss to fight was the guy who was obsessed with fighting you with the machetes and would do anything to pick up his machetes again.
Right.
I thought that was really fun. Not like a hard boss fight, but like an interesting mechanic. Because you could goad him into going wherever you want on the screen by just dropping his machete there, basically. What did you think of the Cadillac level? There's a lot to do.
That was the last comment I had, was that this game does not have enough Cadillacs in it.
Okay. Okay. How would you have incorporated it more than in the, I think, pretty well-designed Cadillac level?
Well,
How do you want
first
to
of
talk
all,
about that?
the
Go ahead.
Cadillac...
Tell me your take.
The Cadillac in the Cadillac level has machine guns mounted on it, but you don't get to shoot those.
Right.
So that was a tease. I didn't like that.
Okay, I didn't realize it had machine guns mounted on it. I thought those were just like extra whatever.
They
but
look like
go
machine
ahead.
guns to me. Although in
Okay.
the show, I don't think I recognized them ever having.
It doesn't
machine
shoot in
guns
the
mounted.
show.
No, it doesn't. But it looked like there were machine guns on the side of it. I think
Okay.
I would have liked it
Guns or not.
if they had like shoot 'em up levels between each beat 'em up level.
Similar to, like, better than Batman, obviously.
Mode 7, not a Mode 7 level. Sides growing up and down, or even top left and right might be better. Shoot 'em up where you're dodging dinosaurs.
I think that would have been really cool. There is a shmup, I forget what it's called, but there is a shmup where you're like a biplane fighting dinosaurs. It's a side scroller. It's not a top down prehistoric something. I don't know. They re-released it on PSP at one point.
Or even if how they did the Cadillac in the game was fine, just more levels like that.
I thought it was cool. I liked trying to run all the guys over in one swipe. That was cute. I liked that the boss could actually be beaten just by beating him in vehicle combat.
I was
You
not
didn't
able
actually
to do
have
that.
to fight him. I wasn't able to do it. I watched a lot of videos on how. I saw. I got really close a couple of times.
How? What's the key? Because I didn't even think to.
It's positioning, man. I appreciated that once he knocked you off, like it was a cool like post joust. Like you got to take him down. You know, I thought that fight was cool. Anyway, what game next? What do you want to do next?
Well, first I got to give this superlative: ecologically conscious.
It is the most ecologically conscious, definitely. I loved the fucking philosophy that this game was trying to, not the game, but like the property was trying to push, you know?
Yeah, it's too bad. It's just too bad. It's too bad that there are more Scharnhorsts than there are Jack Tenrex.
It's, you mean it's too bad that the franchise is going to literally come true?
Katie, come on! It's about time you throw this.
Oh, yeah?
Katie!
He said I was his first, But even as a kid, you don't even know what that means. So your lovers and your best friends.
The training, Michael's training of me to testify began the first night that he started abusing me. He started telling me that if anybody else ever finds out, we'll both go to jail. Both of our lives will be over.
Every kid in this whole world to take drugs because of me. Because of me. I want everybody to know it. Everybody.
So that's the way it goes down, huh?
You play this game, it just raises the question of art based on problematic artists. Personally, in some cases, depending on what they did and then specifically what the art is how it impacts it. So, for instance, take like Kevin Spacey. He has this movie where he portrays a pedophile.
K-Pax.
Yes, K-Pax. Once it turns out that he is a pedophile in real life, you can't really watch that movie anymore. Similarly, like with Louis, he's like this creepy sex pest, and then like half of his stand-ups
I'm
about...
sorry. We have to clear this up. You're talking about Louis C.K. We are calling Louis C. You called him a sex pest?
Yeah.
Okay. I would call him a misogynist piece of shit.
He's a creepy
He's
dude
worse
who whips
than a
his dick
sex
out
pest.
Okay, he's worse than a sex pest.
He's an abuser. He's
Okay.
way worse than he's an abuser.
He's very creepy and does abusive behavior towards women. And then a lot of his stand-up is about, like, before I knew that, watching it, when it was just, oh, this is kind of my interior monster, then it was funny. But once you realize that, no, he was actually doing that,
monster,
then I can't really watch it and enjoy it anymore. But this game is, well, it's kind of weird because you're saving children, which is the opposite of what Michael did. But the game is not about like befriending children and having them over to Neverland and then having like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't evoke the crime in the same way.
Right.
Or like with Kanye, like I like his rap, and something like Monster, I would read as satire before, but now I'm just seeing it as misogynist.
Right. The problem with Moonwalker as a piece of media is that it was produced just like Michael Jackson's music, just like Michael Jackson's career, right? It was produced so well. It's produced so well. Michael Jackson Moonwalker on Genesis is as well developed of a game as Shinobi 3, maybe minus a revision or two, because Shinobi 3 got some revisions, but like it's that amount of love was and like developer effort was poured into this game, and it shows, right? I mean, the combat sings, the various things Michael can do, the monster design is amazing. I don't think the gameplay is particularly great. It's maze based, sort of what we see out of like a Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle. But like,
but what makes it work is that it moves so well and so smooth.
He moves very well. The character moves so well. He's so fun to play. He's so fun to dance with. Just the joy of movement to Michael Jackson's Avatar is so much of the game. Like huge, beautiful move set,
the little
status based. The flourishes, but like the status based. So like at full health, these are his capabilities. At mid health, these are his capabilities. When he's freaking out, these are his capabilities. There's just so much to it, and so much was poured into it.
I like that mechanic of the health bar and the magic bar are the same bar.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's fun. I don't love it as a player, right? But like as a from
Design
the
perspective.
gameplay design perspective, yeah, I like it. The fact that you can try to lure entire enemy hordes into a dance party, just what the fuck? No other game had that. No other game had that.
The movie that it's based on is wild.
I didn't get to see that. I
I want to
watched a couple
summarize
of
it
the
for you
Godzilla ones.
briefly.
Okay, go for it.
All right, so like the first 15 minutes is kind of just a hagiography concert video mashup thing. And then it transitions to these little kids doing a music video to Bad, which is what you see in the end of that, the clip that I made. Then it transitions into MJ running from fans and press, and he transforms into a claymation rabbit for about 10 minutes. And then it does this weird collage animation with MJ music. Actually, really incredible animation. If you remember, like some of the Monty Python animations, how it was this collagey cutout style thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that style, but really detailed, really, really good. And then about 30 minutes in, the actual movie starts. And you see Michael Jackson come out of his apartment, get attacked by Joe Pesci's armed goons. Then there's a flashback to MJ playing soccer in the field with some children, but he's throwing the soccer ball like a football.
Soccer, yeah.
And then the soccer ball gets kicked over into a cave, and him and this little girl wander over there, and they come across Joe Pesci's scheme to get all the children in the world addicted to drugs. Then it flashes back to the present where these goons are chasing Michael Jackson. He transforms into a car and flies away. Then he meets up with the kids in this...
I'm sorry. Could you so he turned into a rabbit at one point.
Yes, he turns into a claymation rabbit.
Right.
Then
this time he's turned into a car.
He turns into like a car, kind of some DeLorean sort of looking thing.
Okay, I guess I remember that cutscene in the game.
Yeah, that's where that's from.
Okay.
He turns into the car, flies away. He meets the kids at this magic bar where they do a Smooth Criminal music video. Then that's when Joe Pesci's army catches up with them and surrounds them. And then Michael transforms into a giant mech and shoots missiles everywhere and takes out the army. Joe Pesci jumps in a spaceship, and Michael Jackson chases him and blows him up in space. And then the kids are sad because they think he's gone, but he comes back and says he has a surprise for them, and then he brings them through this short little maze thing, and they wind up backstage at a concert.
It seems like it would be really cool if it wasn't so insidious, right? You know, and that's kind of the problem with a lot of that stuff. Like
especially the beginning part, because it's like showing that stuff he did for, I don't know if it was for USAID or when he was doing whatever he was, something in Africa where it's concert. Like he's like surrounded by
USA for Africa. Yeah, USA for Africa.
Yeah, that stuff. And I think the song Man in the Mirror plays, which that's an example of like I can't listen to that song.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because no, you didn't start with the Man in the Mirror, Michael. Just a liar.
We should talk more about the gameplay though, because
it's about Michael Jackson being a PDF file.
Yeah, a monster. Speaking of monsters, that friggin' boss about the first
boss?
third way through the game, the zombie boss with the torso attacks, one of the greatest walls of difficulty I think I've encountered in one of these games as an adult. Yeah, what did you think of that particular fight? What was going on in your head?
Well, when I played the first 3 levels, I was thinking, oh, this game's going to be too easy to be fun. Like, it's kind of cool, but it's a little too easy. And then I got to that boss and said, never mind.
I was introduced to Moonwalker by my high school girlfriend, and she showed it to me on like an early SNES emulator, and then on Genesis or something like she had a copy as well. Kicked it around and we couldn't get very far because we couldn't figure out that you had to like move the piano or summon the stairwell at one point. So we literally never got past the first set of stages.
Oh, the part where you have to shoot sparkles at that ladder?
Yeah, at least in my playing, I'm sure she beat it on her own, but I never got past it at that point, and so I've just been playing this game for too long, and now I hear that there's first-person space shooter at the end of it, and I still haven't gotten past the first half. Avenging Spirit. Let's jump to that one next, unless you've got some more Moonwalker to grouse over.
Just the superlative, which
Oh
is
yeah, let's talk about What is it?
most problematic. What a wild concept for a Game Boy game.
Holy shit! I mean, obviously, it wasn't originally a Game Boy game, right?
Yeah, it was an
It was an
arcade
arcade game.
Which,
But
that's even more. What wild concept for an arcade game?
we've seen some wild arcade games, William.
Like what?
We've seen some wild arcade. Bubble Bobble, dude.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's not front and center in the same way. Like,
Well, I mean, Bubble Bobble was what, 7 years? No, maybe 8 years earlier than this. So, like, by 90, whatever, I think, Jalico was swinging a little bit bigger with their storylines in their games. They had some higher concept games around that time.
Bubble Bobble, the concept is more hidden in metaphor.
Well, because it's making fun of the drunks who were there to play the game, right?
But this game,
Um,
for a kid's game, your character dies before the game even starts.
this is So the original arcade game is aimed at Japanese arcades, not bar arcades to the same extent that Bubble Bobble was, but like it's still that level of arcade game. As far as like, I'm not sure it's a kid's game. I don't think it's a kid's game. I think this is like marketed at Japanese businessmen.
Despite the
Honestly,
cute ghosts, it's like got some
Right.
dark themes. You're just
it's got a lot of dark themes.
even in the good ending, you don't survive.
No, you don't make it. You're not playing that game to live, man. You're playing that game to overcome karma.
Yeah, you're setting something right and then departing.
Exactly.
And that's the good ending.
You've got,
And there's also a
Exactly.
bad ending where you set nothing right and depart and you hope for the best.
well, that's why you have 0 lives in this game, dude. It's one and done. What an interesting concept that would later be borrowed by Messiah. I think later games have borrowed it further, but Messiah is the big one that comes to mind, which means, William, that Avenging Spirit is 2 degrees of separation from Roblox Oof. Can you believe that? What are some highlights for you from this game?
The Nunchuck Ninja, for sure. Very fun.
I didn't get to play much with him.
He is the best character, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, good
Better
damage,
than robots?
really good jumping, and the attack comes out quickly. The range isn't as far, but some of the further ranged attacks, they move slowly.
That's true. If I recall, the nunchuck reaches about like 3 sprites.
It's further
It's
than
not
the
super
dragons.
far, but it's further than the dragons. The dragons maxes out at 2 sprites.
Because it's a platform action, and you inhabit the different enemies, and each enemy is different both in its attack damage, its attack trajectory, and their jumping ability.
Also, in terms of what
their
damages
health.
them, often. Yeah.
What was your favorite one to be? The robot?
No, the robot was the most useful, I think. But my favorites were probably the Dracula is pretty fun.
Why is there Dracula
Invisible.
in this game?
I don't know. There's actually a couple of classic monsters in this game because Invisible Man's just randomly in this game too.
Yeah. But for the theme, it makes no
Um,
sense that there's well, I guess the dragons don't really make sense either.
Not really. Not really. They're just there because I think the reason that they're there is because they were sort of Jalico characters already, right? So like Jalico has dragon games, Jalico has baseball games, Jalico has soldier
Oh yeah,
games,
the
right?
baseball player
So
doesn't make sense either.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's why.
The
I think it
mediums
was kind of
in the Swamis kind of make sense because it's like, okay, there's a ghost, so they're gonna be
right.
called to
So of
exercise it.
course.
Yeah, I just wish there was more to it. There's only 6 levels. This really could have been expanded to a longer game, but without save
Huge for a
states.
Game Boy game though.
Right. Well,
Sorry, take that again.
Donkey
Without
Kong
save
had
states.
like 100 levels.
Yeah, Donkey Kong, I think, might have also been like a more complicated cart. And I think Avenging Spirit was like a very basic Game Boy cart. How would you compare it to a Kirby game?
Much better. As I
Really?
said, I'm not a huge fan of the Kirby games. Maybe there's some other ones that are good that I just haven't played because I haven't played a ton of them. They just feel like a little too easy.
Yeah, there are a lot of Kirby's that are too easy because, mostly they're younger, they're
Right.
into younger audiences. But there are a few that I think that doesn't apply to. One of them being Forgotten Land or Forgotten Kingdom. I forget what that was. A recent Switch release. I thought that was fantastic. It actually reminded me of Spec Ops: The Line in some places,
Okay.
just in the way the environments were designed. The idea that you can take enemies' powers has always been like a favorite of mine in video games. I love the Blue Mage in Final Fantasy. I do like Kirby. I like Kirby games. I like Kirby and Smash, and I think that's a fun gameplay mechanic to play with. And this is a cool way to do it, where you are like this destructive force inhabiting enemies and jumping to the next one as you're taken out. I mean,
And
it's
this
so
way
cool.
has a little more complexity because Kirby just gets their attacks versus this you also inherit their weaknesses.
But also, you can grab somebody's body, they get killed, you jump to the guy who killed them's body, and
Yeah.
it's much more gruesome in in reality.
When
I
you think about it,
guess.
yeah, then the cute
Yeah.
sprites would indicate.
It's very cute. It's a very cute game, but it's when you think about it, it's brutal.
You kill many, many people.
Yeah. What do you think the body count on this game is for like a playthrough? I bet it's like, God, I
100.
bet it's like, yeah, 150 or something like
Close
that.
to 100, yeah. I know. Unlike Spec Ops, this game does not force you to confront the enormity of your deeds.
No. Well, they kidnapped you, dude.
You have no choice.
They drew first blood.
Yeah, they did do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, a great game. Game
But-
Boy does not deserve it.
Wait, so you do inhabit the girlfriend's body, but then leave it and she's still alive. So that's proving that the ghost has the capability to do that. So when he's leaving these
Yeah.
other dudes, he's choosing to kill them as he leaves.
That's correct. Yes, he's an avenging spirit, William. He's not the super friendly best times spirit that you
Well,
apparently long for.
Seemingly he could have just taken over like one of the Invisible Men and just ran past all the people and not had to kill anybody.
Did you try that?
Well, in this game you can't because the gameplay forces you a certain way.
Well, the gameplay's like that for a reason, William. It didn't work when you tried that, William.
It's the gameplay is manifesting the character because you're not the character. The gameplay is manifesting the character's personality, who would never choose to do that.
It's called Avenging Spirit. What you're talking about is Happy Phantom, which was a popular song in the 90s among goth girls and me.
You could still make an interesting game where the challenge then becomes to not have a body count.
Right. Tori Amos goes into great detail. I recommend you check it out.
Okay. I just want to add the fun
yeah.
factor on this game is really high, and I would call it a must-play for the Game Boy.
For Game Boy, yes, absolutely a must-play. I would say these days it's still an above-average action platformer if you've got 45 minutes to burn.
And like Bubble Bobble, I also awarded this the Deep Lore superlative.
Ready, fire!
What did it? It's impossible.
This was such a unique strategy sim. I was not expecting it to be as compelling as it was.
It was a fantastic game. I still have 2 levels left to play. Fantastic. I didn't expect it to be anywhere near as good as it was, and I didn't expect to have such a thought-provoking experience with it. For well, number one, we should start with talking about how it's a Rodan game. It's not a Godzilla game. It's a Rodan game.
Yeah, which speaks to it being kind of underbaked and feeling like it missed stuff because it just felt like it was unfinished almost. And there's no developers listed in the credits or in the manual, which makes me think they knew it was unfinished and didn't want their names on it.
It's too bad. It's too bad because the game is fucking great. Like what we got, it's definitely underbaked. But for an underbaked title, if this is a Game Jam title, which is what it feels like, if this was a Game Jam title, I think it would win stuff.
It really
if
deserved.
people gave it a chance.
It really deserved to be fully produced.
Absolutely.
Because they could have put more monsters in there, more levels, more units, some dialogue.
Well, let's talk about what was good. What makes us think that? Because in your review, you covered the negatives pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah. I just, as a fan of the series, I thought it hit some of my favorite themes of the movies, which were like collaboration, desperation, and also anti-A-bomb, because in one level they give you the A-bomb and you can use it to lure Godzilla, but if you deploy it, you automatically lose.
Yeah.
And it shames you.
And it shames you deservedly.
Right.
Another theme of the movie that I enjoyed was the search for the Mothra egg to save the day. You know, there are certain fights that you just can't beat without Mothra coming and saving your ass.
Right, which happens in the movies.
I think that the best Mothra summoning is in Tokyo SOS, but like anytime that there's like, oh, you have to get your shit together and summon Mothra by finding out where Mothra's at and doing whatever, you know. In some of the movies, it's a ritual. In this, it was using the radar car to reveal the egg, you know. And then Mothra comes, and she's this savior being who has like a final strike attack that can almost annihilate a kaiju in one hit. Oh,
But
so
then
fun.
Mothra dies if they use it.
Well, that's how it works in the movie too.
Yeah. To be reborn again as a caterpillar. Yeah, no twin fairies though in the game, sadly.
No twin fairies, weak representation of the scientists. Although it's great to see Sarazawa, we both wish he had an eye patch.
Yeah, that's his defining features.
Well, that and self-sacrifice, and he does neither.
Yeah, building the
Let's talk
X2
about.
is a good
Oh,
mechanic too, where you have these parts that you have to try to deliver as quickly as possible to get this unit on the field ASAP.
yeah, the Moonlight. Not it's not the X2,
Oh, that's
Super
right.
X2. It's Moonlight. Yeah,
The SY4?
SY3 or whatever. Yeah.
SY3, yeah. But then, like, when you finally do kill one of the kaiju, especially Rodan, it's so satisfying.
Oh my gosh, it feels so great. Like, I think one of the mistakes in XCOM is that when you first encounter the aliens, they go down like men, right? And in this, it's like you, there are people who give up this game after 3 hours never downing a kaiju
Yeah,
because they don't get it.
yeah, I think that just comes to expectations. If you've played so many of these strategy games and you expect to be able to take out a unit like once it's surrounded and not suffer these devastating losses and still it barely be hurt and it's recovering health.
A monster will go hit for hit with you, take out 3 out of 4 of the units you've surrounded it with, and then come out with nearly full health on the next turn, making the sacrifice completely worthless.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get more Godzilla than that. It's so fucking cool.
Right. And then people overestimate, because the luck mechanics are so visualized front and center, they overestimate how much of an impact that has on the overall game.
True, true, true. That's kind of a design weakness. I wish you could actually see the rolls in addition to just the slot,
What do
right?
you mean?
If well, I wish you could see the attack roll
Oh, I see.
instead of just the slot. There's an argument against that because then you'd know, oh, the monster's mechanics are this or that. But like it already shows you it already shows you their hit points, right?
Yeah, and you already know that on any given encounter, your unit can be destroyed in one attack
Oh, almost every time, yeah.
if things go poorly. Oh, usually they don't in a single attack.
It depends on which encounter it is with the kaiju. I noticed that when you first encounter kaijus, they usually deal about 150% damage or sometimes double damage.
Oh, really?
Compared to later on in the fight, they don't deal quite as much. And I think that's like just to annihilate your morale early on.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice if they added some kind of score feature where you got more points the fewer buildings they destroyed. Just something to encourage you to preserve your buildings, gameplay wise.
Really, the only function that they have gameplay wise is to tell you where the kaijus are heading next
Right.
and to like officially end your game if because losing all your units doesn't end your game. So unfortunately Godzilla is pretty unremarkable in this one, but it's really fun holding Godzilla at the ports, like learning how to hold Godzilla at ports by doing like a rotating defense.
Godzilla was the weakest of the monsters I felt, which was not thematic.
It's sort of like they built all of the monsters off of Godzilla. Like there's Godzilla and then everybody else has powers based off of Godzilla plus this or that or minus this or that.
Yeah, I think they could have made his attack stronger, especially his atomic breath.
I agree. The atomic breath and the stomp, that stomp should be just, if a tank gets hit by that, that should be it.
Right. But this game did inspire me to go back and watch more Godzilla movies.
Yeah, which ones did you enjoy?
My favorite Godzilla movie is Shin Godzilla.
Mine too, I think.
Because-
but like out of the ones you watched just now.
But for this game, I was trying to keep it to the ones that came out before the game, before 1992. I'm not the biggest fan of the older ones, the first generation of them. I like the very first Godzilla film, but the other black and white ones and even some of the older ones, that at least the ones I watched Rodan, and I think I watched Mothra. They were like okay.
I'm a huge fan of Mothra.
Some of the older ones Not Mothra as much, but like Rodan and Frankenstein versus Baragon. They seem to
You didn't like that?
They seem to kind of center on the spectacle of the giant monster fight and move away from some of the more interesting thematic stuff. And I don't like just the action without the theme behind it.
We watched Baragon versus Frankenstein together. That was fantastic. I had so much fun, dude.
It is
Uh,
schlocky fun.
that is a fun movie. I loved that their size was like toned down. So the monsters in that movie are about a third of the size of the kaiju you usually see in these movies, and they like try to do the sets accordingly. And that was really fun. Fighting Baragon in the game is pretty fun, I thought too, because that's like one of the first enemies that demonstrates the difference between ground and air units' effectiveness.
Yeah,
And
and he hides, and so you have to keep your radar car around and alive.
right, right. And the radar car is a great unit. You expect the radar car to be really boring, but the radar car, I fucks. The radar car fucks. I love the radar car.
Yeah, because it's got a lot of health too, so it's not just useful as a radar, but also as a defensive unit.
Like a machine gun stand, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't do a ton
Yeah.
of damage, but it can you can use it to box in a kaiju or protect a building.
Yeah, that's what I used it for a lot. I would put it on a building I needed to survive for a couple of turns, and then I'd just bombard Baragon, usually. Ghidorah was my boss fascination for this game, because I just think Ghidorah is one of the coolest kaiju, even though Ghidorah doesn't really have a canon. Like, there's a lot of different versions of Ghidorah, and what Ghidorah doesn't have
Right.
like a standardized meaning the way that Godzilla or Hedorah or even Mothra, have like more consistent themes.
And in the times I've seen Ghidorah, it seems to just be pure destruction.
Destruction and oppression, yeah, like an intent to terrorize and oppress.
The other kaiju seem to be like have a little more personality. They do destroy stuff. They're not chaos, so they're not so much chaos.
Right, because Ghidorah just flies over and just blasts
Everything.
lightning, gravity rays everywhere in like random directions, like just
Godzilla's
random cruelty.
Godzilla's usually going somewhere or doing something or avenging something.
They usually at least wake Godzilla up too. Like they usually piss Godzilla off
Right.
somehow, and that's not true for Ghidorah. Ghidorah is like, oh yeah, I guess this is my 3 o'clock. I showed up to oppress this planet with this particular alien invasion. I'll be at the next alien invasion too.
Anyway, I give this game the untapped potential superlative. The soundtrack in this game goes so hard on the last level.
It's so good.
It's this shredding guitar solo that I would not expect from a bit chip Game Boy game.
There are so many things to talk about in this game. I guess the thing that initially struck me about it was Mario's movement is so complete and so advanced. The game is from '94, right? But we're still talking about a Game Boy game here. And we've got a Mario who is like as fun to control and has the physics of like a Super Nintendo level character, it feels like to me. I don't know. What do you think, Will?
He has the moveset of Mario 64. I did not
Essentially.
realize that they cribbed those moves from an older Mario game, but it's essentially the Mario 64 moves on a 2D platformer.
Oh god. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of
He has the triple
wow.
jump, but his is a
Shit. Yeah,
handstand
you're right
moves,
though.
and then he has the backflip
Huh.
jump.
Is this like the perfected Mario game of the 90s? Is that what this represents in 2D? I didn't know about this game until this year.
Yeah, me neither. I think if this had been on the Super Nintendo, it would be a lot more famous today.
And if it wasn't just called Donkey Kong.
Right. It
Yeah,
should
and-
really be called Mario versus Donkey Kong, and that's what the later versions of it are called.
Recently I picked up Mario versus Donkey Kong, the more recent one, right before this contest, and I was like, wow, this is great. I hope Donkey Kong is just like this, and then it literally was the predecessor.
Right. There's so many good puzzle mechanics in the game, too. There's also the blood of Super Mario Maker in this, because you're building
You're right.
stuff as you play.
I really appreciate that the gameplay from all three or all three Donkey Kong arcade games was present in some way, including Donkey Kong Jr. The tree piranhas made an appearance at one point, and the jungle vine mechanics were present from that game. That was really fun.
If you grabbed onto 2 vines, you could go up a lot faster, but if you just held onto 1, you could go down a lot faster. Yeah, there are different surfaces that you move differently on. There's a level with a bunch of wind that's affecting you. It really did a good... There's 100 levels of this game about, and each stage did a good job of having new elements, different elements, to keep it fresh and adding things constantly.
What did you think of the Donkey Kong Jr. mechanic, where he would be on some stages just like fucking around with switches or whatever?
Hilarious, excellent. This game proves that you can make an A+ game on really limited hardware. You just have to be clever.
Absolutely, yeah.
The funny animations, like when Mario gets
funny
burned
animations,
or
yeah.
electrocuted.
Or just the different ways he can fall and hurt himself without
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah, when he falls
So
flat on his
funny.
face.
So
It's like
funny.
leg twitches.
And then, but
halfway through, you defeat DK Jr. and then he stops showing up.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, the halfway through one is the one where you like have to activate all the locks, and then it puts him in a cage, and then he's not there from then on.
That's depressing. Mario is the bad guy in these scenarios, I'm afraid.
Well, no, because if you watch the end, he's out of the cage, so he lets him out. It's just until he rescues Pauline.
Oh, okay.
So it's like when I kennel my dog. So it doesn't.
I see.
So it
I
doesn't
see.
gorge itself and get a bloated stomach and die. The superlative I give this is game of the round. This was my favorite game of.
I'm not sure I agree with that one. I think Persona 2 might be my favorite.
Persona 2 is good. I can't
But-
I can't argue with that. They're different games, so it's kind of what
Yeah.
your preference.
I also can't argue with Donkey Kong because like Donkey Kong is like candidate for top 10 on the Game Boy system.
Don't underestimate me, you bastard! You must
They call this the logical result.
I am the champion! Shut up! I'm gonna kick your scrawny piece of You pathetic weasel! I'm gonna kick your... Come on!
Dodge this.
Sound effects are a strong point of this game.
huge part of this.
Both the voice acting, the bits that there are, and the little noises the demons make.
The sound design in Persona games was strong before the visual stylishness was really nailed down. And this one is interesting because the characters all have that awesome Persona visual style to them, but like the way that the UI is designed and the way that cityscapes are designed are still very early SMT, bare bones menus. They have none of that splash that you start seeing in Persona 4, even Persona 3 a little bit.
Right. And then one thing to note about this is that there are multiple Persona 2 games. This is Persona 2 Eternal Punishment.
Right, the second one.
Persona 2 2.
Right. The reason I went for this one was because it's the most different Persona game, because this is the one where you play as adults and you don't obey a high school schedule. It plays out more like a roving detective story or like an X-Files episode than anything else.
I played Shin Megami Tensei a little bit, the very first one, and I played the fifth one. And the fifth one, definitely the style and like the anime storyness of it is stronger, but I like the gameplay in this one better, the way that they're different. In the fifth one, you can't change personas for anyone except for the main character.
Right, it's like his power.
Yeah, and the dialogue options are a little different and less interesting. The negotiation options with demons.
Oh, you mean with demons? Yes, for certain. Well, there's just so many more outcomes in a fight in this one. Right? Because contracts are different from card collecting is different from a demon like having a mixed reaction to you, or you can get mixed reactions from demons. The different outcomes to a fight. Single demons can retreat. There's different things they can give you. It's pretty detailed, pretty wild.
Yeah, if you have them under contract and then intrigue them, they'll give you their cards and also some blank cards.
Yeah, and that's pretty key to getting some of the more important personas.
There's just so many options in the combat too, because you can hot swap personas between attacks. So you can have like 3 characters use the same persona three like back to back to back if you want to.
In some ways, some of the fights feel like the kind of really challenging Pokemon fights that really hardcore people talk about wanting, because you have 3 to 4 characters, right? Hot swapping 8 different monsters, right? Each with its own set of abilities. I think 8 is 6 or 8 if you're fully maxed out.
It can be more if they develop, if they mutate cards with new abilities, or you use special cards when you summon them.
Right. So you really have an enormous amount of options for violent combat, right?
Right. And it's not simple rock, paper, scissors. Each demon has its own strengths and weaknesses. Some demon are just strong to magic and weak to physical, and some absorb and some reflect.
There's a whole element system.
And what's also interesting is the elements are not all in a triangle, really. Like earth is weak to wind and wind is weak to earth. So you have to equip the fire persona to do extra damage to the water persona, but you're also more vulnerable.
Right. There's also an interesting way that Holy and Void both have instant death attacks. Yeah, there's interesting mirroring that you don't usually see in these games across the elements and across the status effects too. Some of the more interesting status effects, possession, you just don't control the character effectively, but the way you get possessed is usually violent
explosion,
death,
self-sacrifice.
Yeah. So you're just dealing with all kinds of problems when that happens. Freeze functions like a stun. There's also like a paralysis. There's also a panic, charm,
fury,
which is different. Yeah, so many cool things you can do in this game. Oh, and some of the dialogue options. Did you unlock any of the special dialogue options?
No, I don't even know what those are.
Okay, so for example, you can get Yulala and Katsuo. Is that his name? How do you say his name?
I don't know. The K police officer.
The cop guy. Who you can so. They can do a flamenco dance if you go to the one clothing store and then the gym. I think you just have to trigger certain dialogues with them, and it'll change the way that they interact from like a completely like dysfunctional relationship to like they have like a thing now. That's just in the mechanics for fighting, man. This story is cool. This idea that rumors can be made true just by spreading them enough.
Yeah, it's pretty thematically interesting. This idea that our perceptions shape reality, which is true to large extents, obviously not to the literal extent where if you spread a rumor that someone's selling weapons, then you'll be able to buy weapons there.
The way the characters interact is so much more adult and so much more realistic than most of the stuff that was available on the system as an RPG at the time. The characters are angsty and annoying in ways that people in their 20s and 30s are angsty and annoying, opposed to the very teenage behavior of the characters in Final Fantasy, for example.
Right. That makes it nice to play as an adult. I don't think I would have appreciated it as fully if I had played it when I was 16.
Okay, what about the cop letting the high schooler off with murder at the high school once you discover who that was?
Yeah, no, I gave this game the ACAB award because it has a lot of anti-police stuff in it, which I appreciated. Even though one of the characters is a cop, throughout the story he's kind of like learning this department is completely corrupt and worthless.
And everyone keeps reinforcing that to him.
Right.
Like,
especially Bao
Get
Fao.
it yet? Bao Fao is a great character, man. Everybody in that game is memorable in some way. It's one of the better RPGs I've played, let alone on PS1. All right. Okay. So here are the ethical paradoxes for each title here. Michael Jackson Moonwalker is about Michael Jackson saving children, and he is presented as sort of a godly hero. Avenging Spirit is ethically compromised because you rampage through a corrupted city, but you rampage through a city stealing people's bodies until you rescue your girlfriend and then collapse the city in upon itself, right? So even if you limit the number of people you kill through your playing through, right, you still completely destroy the city. They sort of have like a megalith city, this gang does, and they control the whole city, yeah.
So it's like blowing up the Death Star.
It is like blowing up the Death Star, yes. You kill all the cleaning ladies on the Death Star in this one. If you didn't
all the chefs, all the janitors.
Persona 2 Eternal Punishment is extremely ethically compromised and ethically paradoxical for a number of reasons. One, it takes place in a universe where fact doesn't exist. It's all about perception. I mean, that's sort of the hellscape we're living in right now, partially. It's also got racial issues, but also you rampage through several high schools in this one on murder investigations that you intentionally do not solve. So then we've got Godzilla 2 Board the Monsters. Ethical paradox here is the remilitarization of Japan. It shows that only through like intense cooperation can people defeat the scale of monstrosities present in this game. And of course, oh, God, just answer your phone, Will. Be a good father. Just check.
It's texts.
So obviously, you shouldn't remilitarize Japan to deal with kaiju, which are essentially just metaphors for our own human foibles in the first place. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, the ethical conundrum is front and center, right? It's like you have to live with nature while also murdering all the guys who don't want to live with nature. A classic ethical conundrum, very ELF. And then Donkey Kong, of course, is the ethical conundrum of zoos. Would Donkey Kong have gone on this rampage if he wasn't kept in a zoo? I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab another non-alcoholic Genesee. I'll be right back. Give me a moment here. I'm gonna grab another beverage real quick. Yeah, I'm living in the woods. I'm homeless.